There's another episode of videos for my son, as I imagine him being 18 to 20 years old, and we're walking along with our dog, taking the dog for a walk, and I'm imparting upon him all my vast amounts of wisdom, which isn't much, but long enough to fill a short video. So today, I wanted to talk to you, son, about the making hard decisions and discerning, especially discerning in the as a believer, in Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. I've spent a lot of time with angst, anxiety, and worry of what I should be doing, what path I should take. Some of the closest times to God in terms of trying to draw near to Him. My attempt to draw near to Him, which is an attempt, have been in times where I'm trying to really discern His will. And so, kind of as a starter, I was introduced at a young age to, right out of high school, right around your time. So I highly recommend getting this. Richard Foster's Celebration of Discipline. And not that you have to do everything in there, but he kind of gives a basis for a lot of spiritual practices, which I kind of view as tools to add to your spiritual formation toolkit. Again, going back to one of the earlier videos, getting a mentor or a discipler is key. And this is one of those other super key things is developing rhythms of your heart, rhythms of spiritual practice. And a celebration of discipline is a great spot to kind of start learning those different practices. They can, and so, remember he talked about solitude, he talked about silence, he talked about prayer and fasting and giving, and a handful of other ones I can't remember off the top of my head. But again, not that you have to do all of them all the time or any of them, but they are tools that you can add in your toolkit, and a tool of spiritual growth and development. And that's part of discernment is having those spiritual practices to be able to draw near to God, or allow the opportunity for His Spirit to draw near to you and to be able to hear and to listen. So much of our world is filled with noise. This car drives by, filled with noise and chaos, and sound and fury. As Shakespeare said, sound and fury signifying nothing. And so it's great to develop these practices to help us in the discernment of God's will, and what that looks like. So I paused there to throw away that poop from the dog. And so I highly recommend spiritual celebration of discipline. You can read through it with your discipler or mentor. If not, it's a good read. It is kind of dense and thick, and it's a good slog. Takes some tough reading to get through. I think part of again, part of that practice, those practices, is the more your daily routine or your weekly routine, your rhythms of life are in line, or allowing you to be still and discern God's Spirit day in and day out, allows for these bigger choices in life to maybe not feel as weighty, or if they are as weighty, but to know that you're not alone in these choices. So much of my youth, and even now, even now, just in some ways paralyzed by fear and anxiety of making wrong decisions. And that's such a small view of our God, and such a large view of us. A lot of decisions in my life. Well, more recently, there's an economist named Tyler Cowen that I followed. Recommend reading some of his stuff by the time you get this age. And he made the argument that we had two choices to make, and one was stay in the same road, same path, and the other one was taking a new path that seemed kind of more intriguing. 9 times out of 10, people find that taking the new path was better, ended up being better for them in the long run. I don't know if I found that to be true, actually. In fact, I would say it probably has not been. It's led me to regret some of the decisions, but and I don't think that could be true of certain types of relationships. Marriage, absolutely, for one. You don't just come along and take whatever's better at all. Not an option. Second, right, it would be your family, close friends, things like that. But I think mainly he's talking about occupationally speaking. But even so, I don't know. I don't know if that's necessarily true. But what I do know is true is, and this has been helpful in some sense, is that no matter what the decision is, like, you are loved. You're loved by your mother and I. We're still around. You're loved by the extended family, grandparents, and aunts and uncles and cousins. Hopefully you'll have good friends, as we talked about before, learning to be a good friend and to find good friends that care for you, not just wanting the next quick hit of dopamine and make them laugh, but really care. And most importantly, you're always loved by God, no matter what, no matter where you find yourself. And so that includes your decisions. I just envision Joseph's brother. Oftentimes we think of Joseph's story in the Bible, not in Genesis, that Joseph. And some of we analyze it by the decisions he made, and like, oh, look how God worked for good. But I don't always think of it from the brothers' perspectives. Where for years they had to wrestle with that understanding that they made the decision to get rid of their brother. And then at the end, that decision ended up saving their lives. And such a bad decision that was, right? Like, no one could say that was a good decision. But God used it to end up saving their lives. Again, it doesn't mean we should try to make bad decisions. But there is forgiveness, there is grace, there's renewal, there's new life. Recently I heard someone talking about, what was it? I'm going to mess it up, but giving yourself the grace to know that you can change. So your decisions, your big life decisions, are not what define you. I would say it's more the daily situations. Sorry, I paused it because we were beside a busy road, so now we're not as by the busy road. So it sounds a little better. All right, it's getting pretty long, so I'm going to wrap this up. Summary. The key to making big decisions is to be close to God in your day-to-day, in your week-to-week, in your month-to-month, your daily routines of life, normal rhythms of life. Some great tools to be able to do that can be found in Richard Foster's book, Celebration of Discipline. It'll give you a lot of great tools to be able to use on a daily basis, or weekly basis, monthly basis. And that your decisions are important and they matter. But what matters more is your relationship with God. That you are loved by those around you, and you are loved even more by a God full of mercy and grace. No matter what your decisions. Those are the highlights. I love you, my son. I'll talk to you later.